Okay, we've been talking about this, the protection of the all natural environment, and you specified that it is more so on the unseen levels of life than on the physical. Could you explain how we can care for the all natural environment on the unseen levels of life? Now, because the concept of the all natural environment is not, as I see, no, it's not very easy to understand. As many people would think that the word natural refers to nature, you know, though it seems to refer more to the unseen levels of life. So, can you shed some light on how we can protect the unseen all natural environment supporting us?
Well, there's many ways to look at that, and so you're talking about the unseen part, and so that's really, overall. Here we have creation, solid things in creation, and all of creation. There's something created, and we call it consciousness. We'll just go with that, and so we call it the created consciousness. There's an overall, there's an individual, and there's a collective or group or overall consciousness to things. It just depends, societies or individuals, families, whatever. There's many things going on. The atoms in the air, you might say, are moving. And so from here, what do we call the real side and the all-natural environment, which entails all of life. It's the whole of life. The isness life is the all-natural environment. What I'm referring to, people in their minds are thinking that, okay, well, he's just talking about the earth or whatever, and that's fine. See, that gets them going. But realistically, with the whole of life, this reference entails everything, not just the earth itself. But as a reference, it's fine there. And then on the real side, too, again, we accordingly, you'll see things adjusted, just like the experiences that you talked about at first. That's part of the environment, people's relationships. That's part of the environment also. As relationships get better, things become more so. And it's not about change so much. Everything's fine how it is, but once you learn to, again, create a benefit with it, transform it into something of a benefit, then it's workable because it's all creation. And so on the real side, too, on the different levels, we'll just say the astral, causal, mental, etheric, whatever, all these different levels, there's so much that's been established there. And just take the astral heavens as an example, and that's why I call them designated heavens, because for the most part, we see what's going on here. People come to the earth, this hard place, and they want to go to the happy hunting grounds or paradise or whatever. And so the ideas of these things are basically set up. Whether they go there or not, well, just depends upon the individual and how agreeable they are and what they're aware of. There's many ways to do that, but for the most part, the religions of the world gear people into the astral worlds, into designated positions is what they do. And then for the most part, they come back here. They just want them to continually repeat as supporters. This is the whole idea of their business plan, you see. And then get them to reestablish things. And then for the most part, things become ruined again simply because of the distortion they create. So it's really about awareness is what it is. Otherwise, things are basically established as they are, and they simply sit and reside there accordingly, and there becomes a collected consciousness that usually starts to sink, doesn't it? Just like anything else here, businesses become so, just like Paul's Corporation in the beginning, and now where is it? It sank. And that is that, and this happens too on the other levels in creation. The real universe is a particular, all right? It's not the same as creation because creation's a reflection. It's a simulator. But, people go up and down the scale here. They're constantly going here and there accordingly because they still don't have the awareness of the real universes. So they have to deal with the environment they're in. And this is what we're showing, people. We're showing them, we're educating them with a real education, not standard, militarized, indoctrinated, conditioned education, but one of a real education to where they start to see more, and then they decide from there. But, again, it's in that deciding, people making the choice. So we're not here to change the environment, no, in creation. And the environment, the real environment in the real universes, no, there's no change there. You don't need to do that. You allow it to support you. It's in reverse. You don't have to struggle there, but you have to recognize how that's done. And here, the same thing, to imply something. So on any of the levels down to the physical, again, we're just, we're providing a real education so people become more aware. And as they do become more aware, they take on the challenge of becoming more aware, they will start to see, okay, it's like, oh, I see this now. And you know what? I want to do this, and I want to try this and do this and whatever, you see? Just like here. It's the same thing. And these other levels, just like the earth and the physical realm here, they're just as restricted in their own ways. The boys have, they got a lot to deal with on the real side too when they're showing people things, just like the experiences that you shared this morning. The real side experiences are great. And, you were in the corporation like I was. I was there since 1970 and went through all those years. I was to stay there. Certain things were supposed to happen in the beginning, but they didn't. So, the boys took another route because, again, free will. And so free will came in, and Darwin did certain things, and Harold, and et cetera. But I was still to be there because, that's just the way it was, to learn a lot and just to do what I was to do, et cetera. But, things, what was I going to say here? Things can take a turn anyway. And so the natural environment that is implied upon, so much so that what we're presenting, it's just as restricted there. And the boys have, they have a lot of situations to deal with to get people's attention. What I was going to say is that you look at all the experiences, if you really gathered them on the real side, through all those years that I was there, just say up to 2001, on the real side, how many of those people could put those experiences together and recognize something from them? Or was it so that most of them took them for granted, and just because they did the spiritual exercise, things were happening? Well, again, Paul started off this way. And, he also talked about that if you want to do something, out there in the public or something, to also, promote things and to, work off your karma or earn your way, basically. You could do that too. Well, I always saw that as the biggest challenge. The spiritual exercises at that time, they're easy. But I saw the biggest challenge is going out in the public and reaching the world. That was the biggest challenge of all. And then from that, I collected my classes and had many classes for almost all those 30 years, et cetera, because I was very adamant at it, and even got into the colleges where we're at OCC and taught many years there. Just did everything I could. I saw that as the biggest challenge. The spiritual exercises were easy. Going into the dream state or whatever, at night, that was easy. But to take on the challenges here, because this place does reflect. It does reflect. It's just like when a person is here, just like the experiences that you shared in the beginning. They used the new you, they did whatever, and then they started to have those experiences. So I see it as very, very important here, and to establish one in this reality, in this sense of this isness, to recognize this more so. To go through the process of doing that. And so the all-natural environment that is specified, yes, it's a challenge through all of creation. I see that, but by the very fact of what we're doing on this little planet Earth, this has a huge effect. Just to the Orions, this little planet means a lot. And the Queen was very upset with us just, presenting the idea to her, confronting her about what's going on. It's like she didn't care. She didn't care at all. Her arrogance was almost 100%. She was in love with her arrogance. And that's a choice, isn't it? That's her choice, And so she's good at it. She's, again, she's practiced her routine for a long time. And she was so into it. But now she's gone because, again, it's like, you know what? We don't need you anymore. And you're not needed. And she'll probably go back to an atom and start over again, which she may have many times before. Doesn't matter. It's a choice. So, because in the phantom zone, there is no creation. You're just in the phantom zone. That's it. There's no creation there. These are spots in creation that people go to where, you know what, there's nothing there. And you just got to deal with yourself and others that are there. So have fun. And she was given the choice. But again, yes, in regards to this reference to be able to see more, well, again, we start off on the earth, don't we? And from this, the process, just like when we came through the corporation to here, through the knowledge that is provided, there becomes the bigger picture to where we can complete this process, finally complete it. Yes, very, very real. And so, what it implies is a lot more, but what's taking place on the real side too, that's a challenge. It's all a challenge. And so again, it's about recognition. So I see how, the average person can be to where, okay, they get a hold of the book, they read the book, they test the new you, they start to have some real side experiences, and they're going, oh, okay, this is great, it works, which it does. Well, everything works in life. It actually does. It's just how you recognize it. Well, they're starting to recognize how it works, and is there a difference? But how many people continue on with it and really get into it? It's kind of like going to medical school for a week or two and reading some of the textbooks and whatever, signing up for it and thinking that, oh, okay, this is great, I can be a doctor or whatever. But then it's like, okay, well, I got enough, I'm going. And so I get the idea of becoming a doctor. Well, what is medical school? 5 to 10, 20 years, whatever it is, plus after that. So do you really get the gist of it? Do people really recognize what's going on? So for something to transpire, you might say, from here with the knowledge and the recognition into the real side and up into the real universes, which is not really up, but the isness life is, which is here now. The individual has to go through a lot. It's a huge process because there's so much unraveling. There's so much to learn and to prepare for, more so than just the knowledge and doing the new you and just expecting. The average person will expect to just, they want to, and I've seen this over the years, and it was with the Hue at the same time too. They're expecting things to happen, and eventually it's to where, okay, well, you got the real side, you got the physical side, and people see the benefits of both, but not always, because they usually lean towards their personal side and their personal life, what's going on, and it's like, well, whatever's happening on the real side, and I get that. We all go through that. And you're almost expecting miracles after a while to constantly take place. And for some people, they do. Things happen this way and that way. But at a certain point, everything goes through its own transition. And I don't know what that point will be for anybody. Some do better than others. But also bringing it into the physical, that's huge also. So again, things will transpire in the other levels of the all-natural environment, and it can be according to here, according to there, but it really is all about the recognition, how the individual recognizes what is taking place, and then decides how they are going to take part in that. That's the whole idea, more so than just the knowledge and having the experiences. The experiences are to show that something's taking place. And you see, this is what the real guides do. They don't wait for things to happen. They see what is taking place. They see what can be created as a benefit, and they go and do it. See, they don't wait. And so on the earth, when people have this knowledge, they're usually waiting for something, aren't they? Just like people are waiting for Jesus. See? But they do. And this is what they demonstrate. They do. But at a certain point, when they see the individual is really not doing something of a particular, then they kind of step back. It's what they do, because they're not going to just do. They want the person to be able to take the risk and step up and do something. So I see that how I figured this out with the all-natural environment is really cool, and how it makes sense. And yet it's just very real. I see it as opposed to what we've come through, the teachings, the sound good teachings, and all this stuff like this, and looking to a master or looking to somebody or whatever. I see this is so cool, and that it does make sense, and especially when you start to get the gist of the isness with this and what it really implies. Because that's what we're really talking about here with the all-natural environment. Well, we're starting off, and, the first stages, so that people can relate to something. And then if they're interested, we move them along. But, you have to go through yourself first. You have to recognize, just like that picture Ava and I put together of the fella crossing the bridge in creation, you've got to face yourself first. You've got to face creation and figure it out, just like anything, just like going to college and high school and college and figuring all that out to get the career or job you want. And this is better in a career. You eventually recognize a real purpose with the whole of life, which is a lot more fun, a lot more real and clean, and no encumbrances or restrictions. No rules, regulations, and all this nonsense. We're going through a mound full of mountain rules and regulations. And Val was kind of humorous. He was at one of the club meetings here just last week, and they're so proud of their rule book, which is about 2 inches thick. Yeah, they got new rules and regulations, and they're just so proud of it, and everything works off of that, just like holding up the Holy Bible. More restrictions. People are so geared into accepting and agreeing to more restrictions, thinking that this is better. And so, of course, we come in there and, we don't even have to talk about no restrictions. They already pick up our vibes, you might say, and we're kind of agitating them simply because of what we're presenting. And so again, just like the United States, at one time the Indians lived here and they didn't own the land. They lived free like the animals. Now you can't go anywhere. There's rules, regulations, and you can't trespass. You got to own the land if you want a piece of property, etc. All kinds of restrictions, and it wasn't that way at one time. And so the real side, too, in creation is like that also. There's restriction after restriction. And actually, like the experiences that you first shared with us, Charles, it exemplifies the hidden restrictions, you see, that people don't see that are there. And this is what was shown. So, and then the individual at some point decides, will they step up? And will they take on the adventure to recognize these restrictions for themselves instead of constantly be shown? So I've always taken on the adventure to the risk taker to, taking on the challenge. I want to see what's going on here, and I want to see what will happen if I do this or that. And so things always do happen, and then from that, I've learned to formulate what I have, share my experiences, and gotten to the certain point to where, I can just pick it out of the is and see each moment and whatever's next or whatever. And it's not that it's going to conform. That's not the idea, but something at that moment. But then the next moment, it's something different. And then sometimes I wonder about what I wrote last week or last year or 5 years ago. Will it correspond? And usually does still, but at the same time, because it's moment by moment with me. And at that very moment, that's what I'm writing about or saying or talking like we are right now. And these things are very important. That's why you bring them up. I see it as very important. But it's the bigger picture because most people here are one-dimensional. So to present something that's multi-dimensional, that's a huge challenge. And, there's a lot of people that are aware of this. But for the most part, it's physical astral is all they're aware of. That love idea, the sensations, and that heartwarming comfort zone. That's a big deal in the astral worlds with the astral body. That's a big deal. That's a toughie to deal with. And to really have a real understanding of that and to be objective about it and to become more aware than just subject to the sensations of the astral body. That's huge. And this world has been indoctrinated and mesmerized and brainwashed and subliminally controlled to, feed, to be in that position so they can be fed off of. And to chase all of that, all the sensations and thrills which deal with the astral body, anything, etc. So, there's it's a heck of a challenge here in creation right now, and they're just making it worse and worse and harder. And so again, until some of us step up and do something, then nothing does happen. And again, we decide our adventure. We decide to become more aware and take the risk and just suggest something, see where it'll go. And yes, of course you're going to get all kinds of excuses, all kinds of why we can't do this, why we can't do that. That's all you get. That's what I've gotten through with these certain instruments I've had for 10 years. But I kept going. All the no's and saying, no, those are dangerous. You can't get those. Those won't happen, whatever. I kept going. Till I met the so-called top people in the world. I kept going. I didn't stop. I could have stopped, but I didn't stop. And now it's gotten better because I didn't stop. It's been over 10 years, every day. That's what since I've been here. I've been here 11 years. And so as I gotten out of construction, phased that out in the first couple of years I was here or so, and then just live off my iris and getting to this point here to present this to the world. Yes, it's always a challenge. And this whole thing with the all-natural environment. But I love the challenge, and that is simply because that this reality, this is my love affair with this adventure, because this reality, to recognize it and to be part of it is worth it. Oh, way more than worth it every moment. So I've geared my life. I left my happy homes, 3 of them at the top when they were the best. Everything was taken care of, but I left to do that. Yeah. And it's been the biggest hassle of my life, but it's worth it. And the best part is that all of you have shown up, you see? That's the best part. You see, you have come alive. You have woken up. That's the best part. It's not about me. No, it's not about me. There is no me. It's about everything. And so to be a part of this, yes. And who will see that? Who will grasp that? So you look at the member shrimps with Joni and Harold. They don't realize that they're just supporting Joni. And they're praying to Joni. They're thinking they're praying to some god. They're praying to Joni. Yeah. And they're sacrificing their labor to give to her and everything else to give to her. That's what they're doing. Yeah, they're not referring to the all is. No, they don't want nothing to do with that. Yeah, see, I just simply represent that. But they think it's about me. But it's not about me. It's about what's real. And so there is a difference, but you have to discover that. You have to take the risk, the challenge to see that. And the boys have given those people a lot of experiences, but you know what? They don't want to see it. They want Harry and Joni. Well, they got them. At a certain point, it's like, okay, you got it. We're done. Figure it out. And those people are going to be drugged through many, many lifetimes. and they don't even realize it. They're thinking that they're going to be in some bliss heaven or whatever. Well, whatever. I'm sure that some of them will make it, and some of them are listening. But for us, the challenge is bigger because of how things are. And it's amazing when I look at it, since Paul was here in 65 to 70, and to where what things are now in such a short time, 40, 50 years later. It's a very short time. That's like nothing. And look at it, what it is now. Huge, high impact. Yes. Because of the control factor and the agreement. It's the biggest thing. It's not the control so much. No. That's been a toughie too for the elites. They've had to market the heck out of things. Of course, they got the monetary system they control, and they can do whatever they want. But they have a tough time getting people to agree. But eventually, people are stubborn. They will agree, and they have. They're very agreeable. The chemtrails and all these things, the geoengineering is through all the textbooks, and people are buying it. They think that's the natural environment now, technology, and being poisoned. They're agreeing to it. They've done it. They've done a great marketing job. And for us to present something real and to let them know that, no, you don't need this stuff, there is resistance there. There's huge resistance. They don't want to hear it. They're going to go off the textbook and the manuals and the rules and the Bible and all these other things. Yeah. So anything that can be done, Charles, with the all-natural environment and any which way to take a risk, hey, how much time we got? What's your life worth? Look at all the lifetimes you lived here. And what did you do in those lifetimes? It all came to this. Now you have an opportunity to do something awesome with what you know, and to show, one of the biggest things is to show your gratitude. More so than just knowing it, but proving it. Prove it, step up and prove it, and take on the dangerous part of this world. Yeah. Yeah, constantly. The instruments that I have, I could have been arrested and gone. The men in black, I'm surprised they didn't come. But again, you create your own protection. I'm not gone. The boys said hang on to them and keep going. I could have been, hey, I applied to the federal programs, went through the FBI many times. I could have been gone. I've known people that have been arrested. I've seen it. Yeah, just taken away, gone, having the same things I do. But I'm still here. But I kept taking the risk. So, yes. So I know that's a long explanation like most things are, but there's a lot to it. And so I see what we're providing with the example of the natural environment, all natural environment supporting us is huge. It really is. There's a much bigger picture here. And what we're doing at the college is just a start. And trying to get some of the people on the Skype that were, Chris left and others like that. It's like kind of sad because that was his forte. But, I'm sure he'll be back, and many people will. But again, they make the choice. Their personal lives are more important. And that's fine. But I try to tell him and others that, this is all part of the Vessel Project, which, I've been talking about funding for years. But, I can't control that either. People that I deal with are the number one people in the world, but at the same time, they've got to deal with the environment here and the systems and the banking systems and the monetary systems and, et cetera. It is just, I've gotten so many people to agree to it, but at the same time, but we have a bigger picture. And I've taken on that adventure. It's been agreed to, and the boys are doing it with the 700,000 True Silent Ones, and more will be coming. Whatever it takes. So this is very, very interesting. So they're laying the cable. People have to decide to hook up. That becomes the difference. But I like the challenge. I want to see what's coming from that. Val and Kelsey and a few others know what I'm talking about. But there is even a bigger picture that's a whole lot more fun. But you got to keep going to see it. And if the boys show it to you, they will. I don't know. They decide. I just do what I do and see what happens from this standpoint here. But the physical is very important. Just like Paul said, there has to be somebody here. Somebody here to decide this, to decide something, because, people are confused. They don't know what to decide. So what they usually decide is their own demise. And that's more than evident. the whole world is, and they're happy to do it. And so this is where the resistance comes in. So it reflects into the all-natural environment through all of creation. It really does. Because it all comes in, all those 5 bodies come into this one body here. And this is our experience. This is just how it culminates. And so figuring this out is huge. But you have the opportunity. You always take that risk and, whatever. But this is what we're doing, a step at a time. I tell the kids it's batting practice, okay? Till we get to the big show, it's batting practice. We're getting ready for the big show. And, well, with whatever happens, this or that, at least you're prepared for something. And so we'll see. Yes, Charles. Yes, thank you.
I read some things, and I see that people are trying to take you to task for kind of being against literalism, which I think misinterpret as having any education at all. I know that what you're emphasizing on is that people should not think that the intellectual part of them is all that matters. There's more to life beyond the intellect. But many people think that either you are against the form of schooling, or it's not necessary, and all the like. So questions such as would you talk about a new presentation to just to anybody out there, villagers, fishermen, laborers who have not even developed the mental apparatus? Would they even understand what you're saying? And all that. So I thought I should mention this. To see your take on it. Maybe my explanation of being literal is even wrong. So could you throw some fast light on that?
No, it's not. Again, here's the idea. Everything is fine. Everything is fine. Everything is workable. This is creation. It's all fine, no matter what it is. Yeah, the idea is that when people have likes and dislikes, pros and cons or whatever, let's say about what I'm presenting, etc., that's because they haven't taken the time to really understand it. And that is that everything is fine. The literal part of ourselves and the educational system, it's all fine. I'm fine with all of it. All I'm saying is that if that's just all you agree to, then the end result is that's all you've got. That's just very real. You decide. It is how you agree to it. It's a tool. It's like money. Money is not bad. It's just something to utilize. But at the same time, I'm explaining here that, we don't need the computers. We don't need the system. We don't need the governments. We don't need money. All right? Because when you reach a certain point, your real awareness, guess what? You don't need it. Birds don't need it. We don't need it either. But in the meantime, because we continually agree to it, we've routined ourselves with it. Yes, we utilize it. But as we become more aware, that's the best way to say it. As we become more aware, we'll reach a certain point, just like the boys, where you don't need it. You see? You don't need it at all. But while we're in this world, we utilize it because this is what the world mostly agrees to. So we want to, in some way, relate to the world. So we utilize these things to relate to this world. Because if we're just doing telepathy, as an example, and we're invisible, well, they ain't going to hear it, are they? So we use the mechanisms here. So again, when people are saying, well, Duane is saying this and he's saying this about the literal, whatever, again, they're misunderstanding. It's not about this or that. I'm just simply describing what exists and how this formula has been created to control people. Now, when people become more aware, I still use the literal side. This is what I'm doing right now. This is all basically literal, is what it is. And enhancing it a little bit to give hints about something else, but for the most part, it's literal. And this is how we're talking here. And so, yeah, again, everything is fine. It's how you see it and how you work it. So I'm utilizing this literal side, yet I'm creating, references with the words that I use that don't correspond to the literal side, do they? They don't correspond. And you're not going to find them in Google or in the dictionary. It's like, well, what does this mean? Well, you have to learn to recognize what these words that I make up mean. And they're along the lines and similar to the language you're using. But at the same time, if I just use the same words, then everything will be the same. So I have to take the risk and create things that provide a reference. And then from there, those created because of how I see it and how I'm referring to it from my awareness. Okay, this is one of the things Paul talked about. He said, when you read a book, read it from the author's point of view. Learn to move your view around, not just from your point of view. If you're going to read a book, read it from the author's point of view. What is the author seeing? You see? And so that's the idea. But for the most part, most people are into their personal self, so they're going to take it personal. And then they're going to create attitudes, which equal what? Nothing. It has nothing to do with what I'm referring to. They have to learn to see it how I do. What I do is that you want to see what the is. Well, you learn to see how the is sees. Not how you supposedly think or see the is. That's not it. But how it sees everything. Yeah. And who will take the time to do that? Because first of all, they don't know, nobody knows what the is. Yeah. But so you have to take the time to first of all recognize that. And just like becoming a doctor, you to see how to become a doctor, you got to be the doctor. You got to see it from the doctor view, not just looking at the doctor and thinking, okay, well, this doctor is good or bad or whatever. I don't like what he's saying. I understand that. So it's learning to see it from that particular view. And again, it's a literal world. I get that. And this is the only way that we can relate to most people is in a literal sense. But as I write and create what I do, I'm trying to expand upon it so that in a way, it's a challenge for people to figure out what I'm writing about. See? It's not just, when I read Paul's books, when you read Paul's books, they're easy flowing. They're on the basis of what has always been, okay? And Paul copied a lot of things or whatever, which it doesn't matter, same words. But what was there is the reality of the isness. But now it's more defined because people are more literal and they've heard all those things for the longest time. And so if I were to repeat those, like, the Way of Truth, Varden Carr, Denami, and all these other paths that have been created, John Roger Hinkins, Scientology, whatever, all these things, they're basically using the same protocol. They're using the same formula, aren't they? And so what is happening now? These things become like sleeping pills, don't they? They soothe people into a passiveness. That's why they're all tap-lined. And they're still using the hue too. That's why life bailed from the hue. It was temporary anyhow. But that's why it bailed from it. And I don't care if it's been around 10 million years. It was temporary. That's it. The new is the reality. It always has been. And so, it's interesting as we look at things and the approach to them. And again, the literal world, and it's the Facebook world, like or dislike. You like this or you don't, or unlike it. You see, it's basically black and white. And this is basically how people have been geared to be black and white, left and right and wrong. And this is the obeying structure of things. Okay, you did that right, you're good. You did that wrong, you're bad. Okay, so we subject you or we punish you, whatever. Again, it's all set up. It's really set up. The system is really set up to punish people. It's not set up to benefit them. That's the illusion. Again, the birds, do they need a system like this? No, they're not punished. But people are punished. You speed for 5 seconds, 2 seconds over the speed limit, you get a ticket, you're punished. It's all set up to punish you. It's not set up to benefit you. No way at all. Because societies could be created in any which way. And the old societies, the old indigenous societies, were set up to benefit everybody. These societies are not set up to benefit people. They only appear to do that. That's the appearance of things. So, and within society, people are so-called free thinkers, which they are. They can decide whatever they want. And for the most part, what do they decide? They decide silly stuff. So when something comes to them that does make sense, they really don't want to make sense of it, because now that becomes a challenge to them, and especially what I'm writing. It's like, well, what is Duane talking about? Again, that's a challenge to them. Me, I like the challenge if it makes sense. Technology, I see, is a challenge, but I see that it is not necessary because it's becoming worse and worse. It doesn't matter what people invent. Doesn't matter the better lifestyle here. The lifestyle gets worse. But if you want to live it, go ahead. I'm very focused on the universal community where everybody is aware. It's all about your awareness. It's not about what you got or what you need or what you need to have. That's really what it is. But that's a bigger challenge. That's huge. And to bring it all the way into the physical, where the real universes become evident here, that's a huge challenge. But that's what I've decided. And so who will step up and take on the challenge to recognize that? See? The old idea has been, you leave your body and you go somewhere else. Why do you have to go anywhere? Why can't you all see it all here now? And it's not about creation, but see it all here now. See? So, anyhow, Charles, yes, the literal side is what it is. You deal with that every day. And yes, you start off there because this is how people are. And they're so busy with their literal minds, especially their cell phones, they have no attention span at all. That's a challenge for them. They got to get through themselves. But the comments about the literal end or this or that, no, everything is fine. Everything is fine. Basically, the idea is that, yes, you have your literal self. You relate to your personal world. That's your personal world. And you figure things out accordingly. But from that, you should be able to recognize something else. That's the whole idea. So you can use that literal process. That's where it becomes the benefit. But if you just agree to the literal process as it has been established, then in the end result, you're not going to have a benefit to that, because it's all just going to lead to forgetting that you're here, and the literal process won't be working anymore. So it'll have its day to where you could have recognized something, but you just stuck with the basic way it is, and that's it. So it's very limited to what it is. It's not good or bad. It's just very limited. So we're on a much broader position with our real awareness. That's all. So, but everything is fine. Everything always has been fine. It always will be fine. It's choice, isn't it?